remaining. Running footsteps were approaching. Dressler stumbled out onto the concourse. He was sure he was going to be sick. The sudden standing up had done it. He recognised a voice clearly heard in a silence interrupted only by the click and the echo overhead of the lifeless tannoy. A church bell tolled from the direction of the Thames. Two men were approaching, one a policeman, the other a rail worker with a cup of tea in one hand and a newspaper in the other. Dressler leaned over to vomit behind the special offer sign for the same burger meal he'd eaten only a short time before. Come on, the policeman was saying. Run faster, this is for real. Then he appeared to stop in mid-stride. You, he shouted at Dressler, pointing. What's wrong with you people? Get out, now, move it. Dressler held up a pacifying hand. He was still vomiting. He could feel there was more to come. The policeman opened his mouth to speak again, but Dressler never heard his voice. He saw the lips frozen open at the moment of speech, at the moment of detonation, but he never heard the voice. Instead he heard a sound, or the beginning of a sound. From down amongst the maze of platforms came the thud of a heavy object being dropped, the sound of a plough driver, the sound of a giant bass drum being struck by a giant object. There was no drama to the sound, it was a very simple sound. A single bass note, with a sharp beginning, a sharp end, and no echo. Innocuous almost. A silence, deep and empty and penetrating, followed. The blow to Dressler's chest squeezed the breath from his lungs. This can't be happening. I shouldn't be here. The air rippled as though a stone had been thrown into water. The policeman's mouth was moving, but no words were coming out. One by one, each window in the station concourse began to peel outwards and transform from panes of glass into a blizzard of knives. In about 2002, the sense of danger from the old days had long gone. The feeling of always being watched, the greyness of the east, the old Russian sector. No armed guards scanned the no-man's land of broken concrete, and the death zone was simply a track of bare orange soil that marked where the border had once been. All the tripwires, all the anti-personnel mines, all the mechanics of destruction, gone. The tourist brochures may boast about the Brandenburger Gate or the Bundestag, with its new glass roof and spiral walkway, but for Karl Dressler, his home city would always be about one place, Alexanderplatz. Once the centre of East Berlin, the showpiece of the German Democratic Republic, by 2002 it had become a graffiti-strewn chasm of brutalist design, crisscrossed by skateboarders, a soulless memorial to a failed regime. The ground level didn't matter to Karl. It was what lay above, a pencil-thin tower of concrete and steel soaring into the sky, the Fernsehturm. Close to its summit, still clean and shiny and modern, a silvery Sputnik caught the sun. It was a globe of glass and steel, a capsule, an elevator's ride from Alexanderplatz to another world, looking down over the city and beyond. On that clear afternoon in May, with a view of 40 kilometres, Karl was sitting at table 12 in the revolving restaurant at the top of the Fernsehturm. Across from him, Lucia Cavalieri was examining every line and shadow in his face. She was the exorcist of the past. For the first time in a long time, he was daring to feel alive, emerging from a dark place to bathe in the light of the sun. Karl grew up in East Berlin, in the grey worker estates of the Marzahn district, amongst a network of tower blocks and walkways and underpasses, lit by strip lights that barely penetrated the gloom. He watched the Fernsehturm being born from 1965 to 1969. They built models of it at school. It will be a symbol of the triumph of socialism, they were taught, a vision of hope and prosperity. There will be a high-speed elevator to the summit, an observation platform armed with telescopes, and a restaurant in the sky that will revolve through 360 degrees every hour. Karl watched the tower rise from a spider's web of cranes. Trucks and excavators jostled for position around its base. The work went on, accompanied by a mechanical orchestra, the angry, restless barks and grunts, the construction engines under plumes of blue smoke. Vehicles struggled out of the pit, chassis twisted from the efforts of physical labour, and from out of the chaos the tower began to grow. He peered through viewing holes cut into the wooden hoardings that shielded the site. Murals that praised the glorious workers gathered shoulder to shoulder beneath the flag of the German Democratic Republic. In those days, Alexanderplatz was a marvel. The white heat of modernity in the long, hot summers of childhood. Wide open spaces, lines straight and clean, uncluttered, untroubled by the past, a brave new world of pioneers. Karl's father worked for the government, and the privileges of rank meant that he was one of the first to visit the restaurant before it was officially opened. He took